Hello and welcome back to the Phillips Watches Podcast. I'm your host, Logan Baker, and today we're talking about one of the greatest stories in watchmaking, the legacy of Glashütte, Germany. 250 years ago, Ferdinand Adolph Lange unfortunately passed away, and this year, to commemorate the anniversary, Phillips is hosting a traveling exhibition in Geneva, Hong Kong, and New York. The exhibition looks at 2 centuries of Glashütte watchmaking, and the timepieces come from the former and current collection of one Dr. Helmut Crott. I'm joined here today by Dr. Crott, as well as the CEO of Lange Söhne, Mr. Wilhelm Schmid, to talk about the past, present, and future of Glashütte watchmaking.
1,050,000 going once, 1,050,000 going twice.
Gentlemen, thank you for being here today. I'd love to start by kind of taking a step back and looking at what Glashütte means to Germany today. Mr. Schmid, can you help me contextualize where the city fits in?
At least I can try. Historically, I think Saxony was a lot more important before World War II than it was after, logically, because, we were unlucky. We fell behind the Iron Curtain. So for 40, 50 years, we didn't really exist in the Western world. Mm-hmm. But then straight after reunification, there was a lot of hope. People thought now the wall comes down and we can travel and we have access to all the stuff, the products that they had no access to for 40, mm-hmm. 50 years. And I think after a while, there was a lot of disappointment. Mm. But there was one of the few highlights was the rebirth of Glashütte, again, a second time through our Lange Söhne. And funny enough, a second time with the involvement of a member of the family.
Of course.
So to see today that more people work in the watch industry than during the communist times mm-hmm. is very reassuring. To see that quite a few of the companies have their own schools, so we make sure that the Glashütte tradition of watchmaking will continue, is very reassuring. And if you look at the city itself, you see what prosperity can also bring to a little society or community. Mm-hmm. So for me, as a non-Saxon, I'm born, you can't go further west because then you're in Holland. For me, it's fascinating to see that a once created talent pool can survive all odds of times. And I think that is what Glashütte stands for today. It's a talent pool. It's an epicenter of German watchmaking. And we look at the past, we appreciate the past, we all have our roots in the history, but most of us also look into today and into the future to make sure that not happened what once happened.
Mm-hmm. It's a symbol of quality as well, just like German vehicles and motor cars. People around the world look at Glashütte watchmaking as, outside of Switzerland and Japan, as one of the capitals.
I guess so. I mean, if the Made in Germany is a very funny story that you probably know. It was sought as a discrimination and turned out to be a trademark. That's why it's always, that's a funny question, even in today's German watches, you will always see made in Germany in English and not like produziert in Deutschland because it's an English trademark. But I agree. I think today we do not have to explain what Glashütte is and what it means. And if we go back in history, and I'm sure Dr. Crott, you can say a lot about that. In the beginning, that was slightly different because they referred to Dresden and Saxony because nobody did know what Glashütte is and where it comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Dr. Crott, looking at your collecting journey in German watchmaking, I believe it was the 1970s when these historical pocket watches and chronometers caught your attention. Is that right?
Yes, I think there is a story before all that, We are coming out of the war in Germany. I lived with my parents in the 1950s, furniture and decoration, a little bit épuré and cold at first. And then we got in touch with flea markets in the late 60s, early 70s with antiques, Mm-hmm. So I was working in the hospital, and in the weekend I went to the flea markets and I had my antique store,
Nice. Yes, I didn't know that actually. That's new to me as well.
Yeah. So and so we were hunger of antiques, of the things of the old days, because in Germany most of these things were lost in the war, you know. So when we saw an old can or a cupboard or anything, we said, "Oh, wonderful! This is from 19th century," and because it is old, so it must be valuable. That was the beginning. So we had this. I had my little store, and then we tried to get a little bit more structured. I made my auction house, as you know, and we did all antiques. And then I thought in my hometown in Aachen, which is not far away from the hometown of Mr. Schmid, we are Rheinländer.
Absolutely.
We are Rheinländer, you know, which have a special quotation. Anyway, and then we said, okay, if we want to attract international public, we have to be specialized. We have to find something out which
makes you unique.
Yeah. And during my antique beginning, I bought 2 or 3 watches, antique watches, and Nicol Nielsen in Edinburgh at the time in gold with a chronograph, and I was not sleeping because I saw 3,000 Deutschmark. Oh my God, what did I do? I don't understand.
Oh, yes.
All the story. Anyway, I had these watches, and then I had the feeling for watches. I think something that personally I have a feeling for the quality, to see the quality, maybe I would say, you know, the furniture too heavy and all these things, paintings, I don't know. Anyway, I thought, okay, let's try to specialize on historical watches, because in those days there were pocket watches. We were talking about pocket watches, and we were talking about watches from the 16th, 17th, 18th century normally. So that was the beginning. I went to auction houses which just were flourishing up, like Zurich in Aachen, like Kegelmann in Germany, like Antiquorum in Geneva, and I saw the people looking on the watches. I didn't know what they were looking because I didn't know anything. I said, interesting, but very passionate, very passionate. So out of nothing, we started our first auction for pocket watch for watches in 1977. So
and attention back then was on Swiss and British
yes,
pocket
it was
watches.
British,
German watches didn't really capture the attention of collectors just yet. Is that right?
Yes, so there was this Tompion, great names from the 17th and 18th century. And then, as you know, there was this exhibition from Martin Huber.
Of course, yeah.
That was about the same time.
The 100 years of...
And then I haven't visited it, but there was this community out of a sudden, Glashütte, Lange Söhne, So we got excited, and I saw these watches. And then I saw the order, I said, oh, I like very nice, the gilding, the quality, harmony, anyway, many things. But I didn't know why I liked them really. There was a little bit of course, not chauvinism, but a little bit of German old history we find in these watches, you know, which is exciting beside the quality of the watches, you know, anyway.
Was there a specific, I don't know, aha moment when you really realized that historic German timepieces were something special and that you would spend, 50 years of your life dedicated to them?
Yeah. Yes, there was a special moment. There's not... very often there's not one reason because you do something. There's several things coming together, you know. As I said before, with the flea market and anything. One day I go into a pawn shop, or what they call, or a bric-a-brac or a brocante shop in Germany, a little shop. And that was a little bit like a meeting point in my hometown in Aachen, you know, where people met and they shared their passion for any antiques and so on. And there I drop on a person which I knew from my school, from my high school, Mr. Miklos, you know, and I was talking to him, we have the auction house, but we are thinking to make auctions with pocket watches. I like pocket watches, and what do you think? And he was a little bit arrogant, you know. he said, okay, I'll show you something, you know. He pulled out a watch and said to me, this is the best precision watch ever made. Okay, he showed me the movement. I saw the movement and I was stunned. I said, oh, fantastic. I didn't know why, but I liked it right away. It was something I got. So It works in my brain. And then the decision to make the auction sale for watches was final. You know, you say, okay, now the virus is there. So it's actually a Glashütte watch, which made me decide that we do auction sales now. And then I was reading little literature. There was not too much literature in these days.
No.
There was very little. I read the literature, and then of course the Lange Söhne name came before in the first place, you know. And then I said, oh, I would like to have a Lange watch, of course, you know. And then I already was a little bit advanced in my knowledge. I want the first quality, 1A quality. I want the 1A quality. So I go to the little flea store, the little market on the weekend in Stuttgart. And I met a Mr. Tölke, which is a known name in the business. In those days, he was a known name. And I saw in his display cabinet a Lange. I said, okay, he showed me the watch, and it's a 1A quality, you know. He told me the price. I think I didn't negotiate. I said, okay, I take it, you know. I have my Lange 1A. I have my Lange 1A quality, you know. And then the community in the auction houses for Glashütte was something like they were rare, and there was a lot of meetings after the sales, before the sales, and the people were talking about Glashütte watches. And did you see this? I have seen a chronograph. Oh, I have seen a money repeater. Oh, oh my God! And they're so rare, and we wanted to have this, you know. And so there was a little emotion and kind of enthusiasm as they say. Yeah. But then the more I had to describe the watches in the catalog, and I had to deep on it, and then I saw the little details, and then I started to understand why I was excited about these watches, you know. Was it the gilding, which is very special? Was it the fantastic enamel dials, you know, the hands in gold, Louis says, every detail, you know, was, and then I said, okay. And now I understood why I don't say, oh, I have a coup de foudre. Oh my God. And 1 week later, I say, okay, it was a nice watch, finish. You know. No, it went on. And when I took these watches 10 years later, I still like them the same or even more. And today, 50 years later, I like them most. You know, and there are many reasons. And the quality science and the DNA of Lange was so marking for me that I said, okay, it was something apart from the high quality of the Swiss watches, of course, you know, but it was something special and
singular,
for several reasons.
Absolutely. Mr. Schmid, I mean, you know, in the 70s and 80s, Germany was split, East and West Germany, and the Lange name was effectively dormant.
Yes.
How important do you think collectors such as Dr. Crott were in keeping the name and the fascination around Lange alive during this period?
Well, at least they were very important because somebody like Günter Blümlein, who originally had the idea to bring it back, I'm sure was influenced by the Martin Hubers and Dr. Crotts of this world. Had they not been around, I'm not sure whether Mr. Blümlein, because he was too young to experience that firsthand, you know, whether there would have been that connection with what happened to this company or with that company before World War II. So I'm pretty sure the legacy was important because the legacy planted the seed in other people's brain and heart to then revitalize Lange und Söhne straight after that was possible, which was, you know, 1990. And I always like the love to detail that Walter Lange and Günter Blümlein had. So, for example, the first foundation date is the 7th of December, 1845. The second is the 7th of December, 1990. So they didn't do it on the 4th, on the 5th in August, or they did it exactly the same day. And there's a very nice story from Walter Lange, because he first didn't understand that he had to apply at a different municipality to get the company registered. And then he arrived there And basically the post office was shut, and that's where you had to apply for. And then he went around the counter to find somebody and convince them strongly to open again for him to get the company registered at the 7th of December 1990. So tiny little things like that, and I think Blümlein was a genius in emphasizing on that, are important. And without custodians to maintain the legacy, we all know that brands just disappeared.
Of course. Dr. Crott, again, the political environment in Germany in the 70s and 80s is very different from today. And you know, with Glashütte being in Saxony in East Germany, I'm curious, I assume that's where most of the watches were throughout East Germany. Do you have any interesting stories of kind of that period of time going between West and East Germany?
Yeah, I mean, that's maybe a little bit naive, you know, what was my thinking behind. Before I went to Böhmen in Czechoslovakian country a couple of years ago to buy Böhmische Gläser, you know, glasses, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't find anything, you know, or they were double expensive as they were in my place. So my same idea thought, I go to Glashütte in the 1977 or 8, it was 79, and maybe I should find some watches at the source. You know? So I think I did some kind of contact by letter and things, and I had some answers, and so I met some people, but it was a little bit kind of low end. You know, I was very disappointed. You know, so by the chance, I made a detour in Leipzig, because normally my trip was Dresden, Glashütte, and that's it. You couldn't go right and left. You know, as
you couldn't go explore.
Couldn't go, no.
Yeah.
But
You were allowed to.
for my school thing, you have to do a little bit like this, you know. Otherwise, you will not arrive, you know. So I took a taxi driver and we went to Leipzig, you know. And I told him what I was looking for and some stores. Do you know some stores? So he brought me right away at a store where I saw Glashütte escapement model in the window, you know, but a very nice one, not a general, beautiful finishing. I said, my God. I went in, I said, yes, hello, and so on. How much is the price for this piece? Oh, he said, no, this is not for sale. This is my father's school piece, and of course I don't sell this, you know. I had 7,000 Deutschmarks in my pocket. I said, I give you 7,000 Deutschmarks.
His eyes go wide.
7,000. You could probably buy a car. You could buy a car maybe for that.
We could buy a house for that probably. I'm not joking, you know, I mean 7,000 German marks, because there was that mandatory exchange rate, which was 1 to 2. So 1 west to 2 east, but unofficially and on the streets you got 10, 15 east for 1 west, because that was the hard currency in those days. And 7,000 German marks in the early 80s. That was in the early 80s.
That was 79, yes. Well, a lot of money. Yeah. Well, anyway, surprise. Yeah. Oh, are you right? Yeah. I say yes. Okay. All right. It's yours. It's yours. So I knew the problem before. If you buy something there is one story, but to get it out of the GDR is another story.
How do you bring it back?
And there you get trouble with the legacy in trouble. Anyway, I put this behind. I wanted the piece. Now I had it, you know. And then now I attacked the next problem. How can we get it out? You know. And then he made me this proposition that was quite new, that people of third age in the German Democratic Republic could leave for West Germany with a visa, as they were pension people who were pensioned, and they were normally not controlled, and it was easy. So he said, my grandmother and my grandfather, they go to West Germany in 1 or 2 weeks, and they can take it with you and you can meet. So that's what happened, and I had to trust him, you know. And 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, I could pick up my piece, and I was very happy, of course.
Amazing. Thank you, Grandma. Yeah. So the exhibition that you've put together and that we're hosting together has, I believe, about 34 timepieces from over 200 years of German watchmaking history. I've selected 4 pieces from the catalog, and I thought we could talk a bit about them. They all represent a different period of time in Glashütte. So this first piece, Johann Christian Friedrich Gutkaes.
Yep.
Maybe you could tell us a bit about who he was and the importance, because I don't think Glashütte watchmaking exists today without this man.
Yeah, I think in the literature and all in the catalogs, we know that Dresden had a famous history from the support of the court for handcraft, beautiful handcraft pieces, objects of virtue, and also watchmaking. And so there was a tradition building up, and in the late 18th century, they started to concentrate on precision timekeeping with Mr. Seifert, Köhler, these names, you know, and to give the signal for Saxony for the precision time, the main time.
Yes.
Anyway, they were installing observatory, and they were concentrating on precision timekeepers. So that is in the same context as Köhler and Seifert. Gutkaes was the second generation of this group, and in the tradition of these people. And as you know, he became the stepfather of
Ferdinand
Mr. Lange.
Adolph
And
Lange.
Mr. Lange learned in the school, but he was apprenticed. He was apprenticed by Mr. Gutkaes, you know. And Mr. Gutkaes had an influence. He was watchmaker of the court, and he had certainly an influence when Mr. Lange had this idea to create a watch industry in Glashütte, and he was asking for subside things. So I think beside the knowledge he transmitted to Mr. Lange, he also had influence to be a mentor for this idea of
an
Lange.
industry.
Of Mr. Lange.
So I believe
This is in the tradition. This watch is in the tradition of French watchmaking, you know. But it's a lot of own things. The quality of the dial, it's just the best, you know. It is just the best. The quality of the dial. It could be, sorry if I say this, could be a Breguet description watch, you know, which is every collector would say, oh, fantastic. So the hands, the engraving, the gilding, everything is the highest quality. So that was in those days, the French watchmaking was the standard and the top, and he made the best of it. He made the best. This is the most complicated watch we know from him. You know, he made some chronometers, thetans, but this is the most complicated one. It was in the museum, in the Time Museum in
Seth Atwood.
Yes, from Seth Atwood. You know, and then it came to a German collector, and then I could buy it.
And so that, I believe, is 1820, correct?
1820, yeah.
And so you fast forward 30 or so years, and the industry in Glashütte has been established.
Yes.
A. Lange is producing timepieces under his own name. And about 1855, he introduced a keyless crown winding mechanism shortly after Adrian Philippe of Patek Philippe, correct? And that's where this piece comes from, 1855. Right?
With the creation of this exposition, which I thank you very much to help me with that and to give me the chance to present the watches here. I went through the literature again from Mr. Mize, of course, and I learned the things again, which I had a little bit forgotten over the years. And I understood the importance of these watches, which look like maybe a $200 watch or $500 watch, you know. And then I understood the importance of the evolution of Glashütte and Lange Söhne, as we write in the catalog. Mr. Lange, right at the beginning, he said, "I don't want to copy Swiss watches." You know, and I want to create really something typical Glashütte, and we start right away with a lever. Which was in 1840, quite unusual for a serious watch, not for precision or for a serious watch. So he made this experiment, and this watch is with a pin lever. And then I was very astonished, I didn't know. We are in 1851 or 52 that it is also with a stem winding.
Wow.
Yeah. So don't ask me for the details, because there's always a discussion. Yes, here you can set the hand at the same time you can do. I'm not in this detail in the moment, but I was astonished that. Mr. Lange was very ahead of his time, or he was on the top range of scientific watchmaking or creative watchmaking. He with the same people as Mr. Adrian Philippe and also Jorgensen, Jules Jorgensen, who already did this. So they. The time was right for this, for the advanced watchmakers to do this. But it was nice for me to discover this in combination with the pin lever, and so Mr. Lange, in the first 10 years, he's fighting to find the final caliber or the final embauche for his watchmaking. That's it, and that we can strike now. That is the Glashütte caliber, or the Glashütte, the Lange caliber. This is a step. This is step number 2 here. This is step number 2 with the pin lever and that. And then we have still the plates, which are different, and and the bridge, cock bridge engraved. All these things are coming year by year later,
And it wasn't long before they started investing in complications and producing incredible pieces like grand and petite sonneries. I believe it was the 1880s when they Lange introduced their first sonnery mechanism in pocket watch.
About this time,
And the one we have here is incredibly special. I think it's 1911, and it actually has a glazed mineral crystal for the dial and for the case back.
This watch is part of 40 years of my collection.
That's incredible.
The first time I saw it, I couldn't afford it, and I was wavering. It was Mr.
We all
Munski.
know that feeling, Dr. Crott.
From Munski, from Berlin, which is not anymore, unfortunately. And we already called her the cleaning lady, because you didn't expect that you could have a watch like that.
Yeah.
But she had it, I said, hey, So I said, okay, I couldn't afford it. I don't know. It went to different collections, and then it showed up in Christie's 20 years ago. And I said, okay, now everybody buys a Patek Philippe. I also wanted to buy a Patek Philippe, maybe in the sale wristwatch, Helmut, you cannot spend your money twice, So you're a stupid guy, you buy a pocket watch. And the others say, Helmut buys pocket watches. Ha ha.
We should buy what we like.
Yeah. So I buy it. Of course, I never regret that I bought it, No, because this watch, it's like you say, till 1980, the wristwatches had a closed back, or even 1990s they had a closed back, And here we have a pocket watch. Normally you say the movement is for the watchmaker. It's not for the collector. It's not for the buyer. It's for the watchmaker. Nowadays the collectors, they want to see the movement, And here in 1910 we have a pocket watch, And this man who ordered, this is a special order. I want to see the movement. It is so beautiful.
Smart guy. Yeah. Mr. Schmid, have you ever seen? I believe this is unique with the glazed crystal. But have you ever seen something like this before? I find it just incredible. It's so modern.
I think I saw one similar one. Similar, not the same. But they are pretty rare, because you mustn't forget the case was predominantly to protect the movement. And a crystal, as we all know, breaks rather quickly. So to some extent, that is defying the purpose of the case, and therefore you will hardly find many of them. Quite often you even protect the dial double with, I think we have quite a few examples where the watch is completely enclosed in metal to avoid that anything can break. So to some extent it's interesting, because it's a detour from pure function, protection, to beauty, which you only saw in wristwatches, probably you know, in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Before that, most watches, even wristwatches, had a solid case back.
Yeah, they were functional.
Absolutely.
It's very ahead of its time. Just
It's ahead of its time. Now with the photos we made, I looked a little bit closer and I see the hand painting of the dial, the hand painting, and I see, schwarz-rot gold. I see the German colors, the national colors, you know. I see. So, for my opinion, it is a diplomatic present. It must be probably a present as a diplomatic present to an important person in Egypt, you know, and. I have something in mind. I have a very interesting watch as a diplomatic present. This gave me the idea. No, but it has many features which are unique.
Yeah, and so the last watch we have here is an interesting school watch that was produced under Alfred Hedwig's tutelage, correct? 1 minute flying tourbillon. By Wilhelm Kreiler, I believe.
Wilhelm Kreiler, This watch,
I believe it's one of the watches that's closest to your heart in the catalog.
Absolutely, yes. This watch, and in the 80s and 90s, the Lange watches, of course, complicated, were the top of the line and the collector's number one items. And then the tourbillons from Glashütte were in the same range, you know, the people, and technically extremely interesting, and also the name of Helwig in behind, and so on. And we knew that the best watchmakers who made these kind of watches, they went very often afterwards working for Lange. They were working
or the other way around. You know, I think a lot of people worked first for Lange and then started their own business, or Helwig in the case started the school. So Lange was always the source to feed the industry in Glashütte. Yeah. Even today, I think if you go to other companies, there's a lot of people that started working for us before they became successful in other companies.
You know. So this is a watch I bought in 1991. Wow. I was already 15 years in the business, and I never had a chance to buy a flying tourbillon by Glashütte. So don't tell this to Mr. Huber, I make my exposition for the thematic sale.
It will be on the video. If he watches this, you do.
No, but it's okay. I think you will. Anyway, we make the exposition in the Andreas Huber store in Munich, and then a couple, old lady, elder lady and gentleman coming in, very timid, you know, and they say, you are Mr. Crott, yes, we organize this here. You know, we have a question. We have a watch here, and we want to know what it is worth, because we have 2 children, 1 daughter and 1 son, and we have a Baroque commode, and we have this, and we want to give the Baroque commode to the one and this watch to one, if they are the same value, you know. Do they have the same value, you know? I said, today I can say the Baroque commode is 5,000, and this is, we know, a 6-digit figure. Yeah. This is a 6-digit figure. So I said, no, this watch is much more worth, and so on. And I took them away. I said, can we meet? Because I would like to buy it, and I can pay you, and so on. Anyway, we arranged a little bit. They were very nice, and they said, okay, if you come to Munich after the sale, and so we can meet in our house, and so. So I went to, I already told them a price, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I took the night train. No, I took the train to Munich. I had the money in cash around my belly here, yeah, and arrived there at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And they said, oh, Mr. Crott, we have the Brotzeit for. They were really nice bürgerliche Familie, you know. We have the Brotzeit, the Schinken and Wurst and alles. So I only wanted to have my watch, you know. So
quick in and out, get the money, get the watch out.
You cannot do that, you know. No. So I drink my beer, I eat the Wurst, I ate the Schinken and alles. After 1 or 2 hours, they brought the watch and said, okay, yes. I said, are you still interested to buy it? Because they couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. Yes, of course. Okay, I gave the money. Please count again. Please count again. Okay. So I think at 9 or 10 o'clock, I left the house and I had my watch and I took the night train back. I took the night train back to Cologne and to Aachen, and every 15 minutes I took the watch out and looked on it. So that was the story of this watch. That was in 1991. Yeah.
Incredible. Mr. Schmid, one of the things I admire most about Lange Söhne in the 21st century is the commitment to both contemporary innovation, but also historical fidelity.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, when you see, these incredible examples of historic German timekeeping, how does this influence Lange's DNA today?
Look, there are things that influence us directly, and there are things that are probably different. I start with the difference. Lange distinguished between, and you said it before, Lange 1A and different qualities. That's what we didn't take. So we only have one quality, which is the Lange 1A quality. So if you look at our movements, you always see the golden chatons, your little screws, every balance cock or balance bridge is hand engraved. So everything of that is really back to, history. That's how the 1A pocket watches were built on. What we took on board as well is a set of values. And I think the biggest accolade for that goes to Mr. Blümlein and Mr. Lange.
Of course.
I had the pleasure of working with Mr. Lange for 7 years. Unfortunately, then, as we all know, he passed away. Unfortunately, I never met Mr. Blümlein, but I think these two guys were so instrumental and they're even influential today.
Absolutely.
Mr. Blümlein, I think, was the brain. A lot of his ideas are still North Stars for us, specifically in the design corner. And Mr. Lange, who referred to himself as the bridge into history, he's the heart of the company. So his attention to our apprenticeship trainees, to young people. When he walked through the factory and greeted everybody, that was something which you cannot repeat in today's world. However, they left that set of values, and even the most eager CEO will not be able to change that. And I think that's their great achievement, which helps you to move boundaries, never stand still, but at the same time stay grounded into your history. So it's not stopping you, actually, it's enforcing you to go the extra mile.
And Dr. Crott, I kind of have the inverse of that question, but when you look at contemporary 21st century Lange Söhne watches, how do you see them echo the quality and spirit of these 18th or 19th century examples?
For me, one of the most important things for a brand is to get the DNA. So you see just the crown, you say, this is a Lange, or you see just the crown, you say, this is Jorgensen. Sorry, and so that is magic right away. So they set the DNA, and that's what collectors like, and it has a reason, because it also means quality behind. And when you look deeper, you see, as Mr. Schmid said, you see the gold chatons, you see the blue of the screws, you see the engraving of the cork, and so on. And so that is the basic, and that is why you say, okay, I collect Lange watches, and it is something special, yeah. And you have the credibility, and you as a collector, you feel good, as you see with your eyes the quality, but you also have the credibility. You have a company behind which is taking care of their patrimony. They're taking care of your patrimony, and you say, in 1 or 2 years, they will not come up with a crazy watch with thousands of things there, and you don't recognize it. Because there's a new CEO there. You say, now we want to make a watch for $10,000 with all complications in there. This with a company like Lange, this will not happen and destroy. We have seen this with other companies, unfortunately. No, I'm very confident for the quality and the DNA, and it's all the right package.
I'll never forget, because I think that was for me as a watch lover and a petrol head, a very nice story. The briefing of Blümlein to what a customer should feel when for the first time he holds one of our watches. And we talk about the mid-90s now, the early 90s, and he briefed the team and he said that feeling when you close the door of a Mercedes, that,
Yes. Yeah.
you close it and you feel, Jesus, that's quality. And he said, whenever somebody is touching our watches for the first time, that's the feeling I want to create. And that's why all our watches are potentially heavier than they look like. And I always see that when customers for the very first time touch one of the watches, they feel, oh yeah, it's heavy. But that's exactly the feeling which we want to create. And trust me, in a world where gold just touched the $4,000, you pay a price for that feeling.
But then also, for my opinion, it is nevertheless the harmony. It is not too much. It just fits right. When you're in the pocket watches, you take the Swiss pocket watches of the 19th century. They have a gold case, which is nice. It's okay. So later, you take an English pocket watch, and you say, "Oh, it's a little bit too much." And you take a Glashütte watch, you say, "Oh, it's heavy, but it's
Just
nice. It's smooth, and it is harmony. It is harmony.
It's something you can trust.
Yeah.
What about proportions?
Proportions, and that was what it was with the pocket watches, and what Mr. Schmid explains now with the wristwatches.
Well, I only have one more question, and it's for both of you. Dr. Crott, you've been collecting German timepieces for 50 years.
Yep.
Mr. Schmid, you've been leading Lange for, I believe you're approaching your 15th anniversary. Congratulations.
Yes, soon.
So
We really are
15 now, 15. In December.
It's incredible. So I guess looking ahead, 20 years down the road, what do you want to see in Glashütte? What do you expect for the future of German watchmaking in Saxony?
Yeah. Me.
Sure.
Me. Okay. No, people collectors, and I'm a collector, they want to see new things. But they don't want to see something completely new. They want to see something authentic, something traditional, with a slight change. They changed a little bit like this, and that is nice. It fits in my idea, and I like this. So I think to stay in the tradition of what they do now, and to preserve their DNA and make little changes. I could imagine, for example, I don't know, the gilding of they have the export movement, which is a German silver export movement.
Yes, yep.
In the Glashütte watches, and then you have the gilding, and I think the gilding is fantastic from the Lange. It's nicer than anything else I know in the pocket watches in the world. So I don't know, a movement with a gilding could be I would like.
He's giving you some
I
ideas.
get number 00.
I always,
Does that mean-
I collect ideas. It doesn't mean that we execute them.
No. Otherwise, I vote for 00.
Okay.
And for you, Mr. Schmid, looking to the future, what do you...
Look, it's if every August we bring our new trainees on board, and then they embark on a 3-year apprenticeship training. Takes them another 2 years before he or she becomes, a productive member of the manufactory. But every August I think, hey, for the next 40, 50 years, he or she will be a watchmaker. And my biggest task is to ensure that the young generation will be as enthusiastic about what we do, because they understand, like you've been 30, 40, 50 years ago. And, to get that bridge into the young generation, to make them aware of that there is things that will get lost if we don't support it, if we don't communicate it, if they don't buy it, because at the end it's a business. That's the driving force for me. I'm worried about the company in the next 5 to 10 years, but to plant the seeds now for the generation to come. That for me is the biggest challenge, and that for me is where we need to invest today.
Beautiful, and the challenges are exciting. So it's always good to keep building and evolving while staying true, just like you said, Dr. Crott, to the authenticity of the product. Well, thank you both, Dr. Crott and Mr. Schmid, for coming to Geneva to speak with us. The German watchmaking exhibition will be traveling to Geneva, Hong Kong, and New York as part of our fall auction season from early November to early December. We hope to see you there. It's open to the public, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to view and handle some of the most incredible examples of German watchmaking from the past 200 or so years. So thank you for watching. Make sure and like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.